What happens when a family reunion turns into betrayal? One stepbrother crossed the boundary, and the trust was shattered forever. So, this all went down at our big family reunion last month. My mum's side and my stepdad's side decided to finally do this combined gathering at my Aunt Lisa's house. Think barbecue, folding tables with mismatched tablecloths, kids running around with juice boxes, and way too much potato salad. For context, Andrew is my stepbrother. We've never been super close, but we got along fine until this reunion. I thought he was just a little immature, the type who thinks teasing is the same as bonding. But that day, he completely crossed a line I didn't even realize needed defending. The day started fine. I was helping Aunt Lisa set out trays of food in the kitchen, while my cousin Jenna was gossiping about her new boyfriend. My stepdad was out back grilling with the uncles, smoke everywhere, beer cans on the table. It was normal, almost cozy. Then Andrew showed up late and he came in loud. He was slapping backs, making dumb jokes, acting like the star of the show. Everyone laughed because that's just Andrew, but I already felt my patience thinning. He has this way of making everything about him, even when it isn't. I shrugged it off and sat outside with my mom, catching up with her and my cousin Daniel. We were talking about college stuff when Andrew plopped down next to me and said, "Hey, you still dating that guy?" Everyone went quiet. My mom raised an eyebrow, Daniel pretended to sip his soda, and I froze. Here's the thing, I had been dating someone, but it ended badly, and I hadn't told the whole family yet. I didn't want to talk about it at all, let alone in front of everyone. I shot him a look and said quietly, "Not the time, Andrew." He just smirked and said louder, "Oh, guess that means no. What happened? Did he dump you?" People chuckled awkwardly, but I felt my stomach twist. That wasn't just a casual joke, that was him prying into something I deliberately kept private. I tried to change the subject, but he doubled down, going into details he absolutely should not have known. Stuff I only vented about to my mom in confidence. And he said it with the smug, performative energy, like it was just a funny story for everyone's entertainment. That's when I realized he had overheard a private conversation between me and Mom weeks earlier. He must have been eavesdropping. I felt my face burn. My mom looked shocked too, whispering, "Andrew, enough." But he just laughed and kept going, even mimicking how I supposedly cried. I wanted to sink into the ground. My trust in him shattered right there, in front of my entire family. It wasn't just embarrassing, it was humiliating. The worst part, some relatives actually laughed like it was harmless teasing, but for me, it was the ultimate betrayal. And that was just the beginning. After that first blow, I tried to stay calm. I excused myself, muttered something about needing water, and went inside. My hands were shaking as I poured myself a glass, trying not to cry. I wasn't about to give Andrew the satisfaction of seeing me break. But of course, he followed me in. I heard a sneaker squeak on the tile before he said, "Whoa, hey, don't be so sensitive, it was just a joke." I spun around. He told everyone my private business. How was that a joke? He shrugged, leaning against the fridge like he owned the place. It's not like it's a big deal. Everyone breaks up. You act like I just exposed some giant scandal. I stared at him. You don't get it. That was something I told Mom in private. How the hell did you even know those details? He froze for a second, then smirked. Walls are thin, I guess. That confirmed it. He had been eavesdropping. On purpose or not, he had crossed a boundary, and instead of apologizing, he was doubling down. Before I could snap back, Aunt Lisa walked in holding a tray of cupcakes. She took one look at us and asked, "Everything okay in here?" I plastered on a fake smile. "Yep, totally fine." Andrew grinned and said, "Just giving some sibling advice." I wanted to scream, but instead I clenched my jaw and went back outside, trying to salvage the night. The problem was, the damage was already done. My cousins kept giving me these sidelong glances, like they wanted to ask about the breakup but didn't dare. My uncle even clapped me on the back and said, "Plenty of fish in the sea, kidder." I wanted to disappear. As the sun set and the reunion got louder, kids playing tag, adults drinking and laughing, I tried to blend into the background. I sat with Jenna, who whispered, "Ignore him, he's just trying to get attention." But Andrew couldn't leave it alone. Later, while everyone was gathered around the fire pit making s'mores, he decided to turn the spotlight back on me. He raised his marshmallow stick and said, "So, who wants to hear the real story of why she got dumped?" I swear time froze. Pie popped, the kids stopped giggling, and all eyes turned toward me. I said firmly, "Andrew, shut up." But he ignored me. He started reenacting some exaggerated scene of me crying and begging for another chance, complete with fake sobbing noises. Some people laughed nervously, but others looked uncomfortable. That's when Daniel, my cousin who had been quiet all night, finally snapped. "Dude, enough you being a total jerk, this isn't funny." Andrew rolled his eyes. "Relax, everyone's so touchy." But the look on Daniel's face said it all. This wasn't just between me and Andrew anymore. The whole family was witnessing the cracks in our so-called bond, and I could feel something inside me finally breaking. After Daniel called him out, the air around the fire pit got thick. You could feel the tension, like everyone was waiting to see who would throw the next punch, figuratively or literally. I just sat there, staring at the flames, trying to will myself invisible. My cheeks were burning, and my chest felt tight. But Andrew wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, stretched like a cat, and said, "What? I'm just telling it like it is. If she can't handle a little honesty, maybe that's why he left her." The audacity of it. My jaw actually dropped. My mom's head snapped toward him. "Andrew, that's enough," she said, her voice sharp. "You don't repeat private things like that, ever." Instead of backing down, he smirked. "No, come on, Mom, don't act like you didn't tell me. Maybe you should have thought twice before running your mouth." The fire pit went silent. I felt my stomach drop. Was he seriously trying to throw her under the bus now? "Excuse me?" Mom's voice wavered between disbelief and fury. Andrew shrugged. "What? You talk loud. maybe don't have sensitive conversations when people can hear. I couldn't hold it in anymore. I shot up from my chair. You were listening, Andrew, snooping, and then you turned it into your personal comedy routine to humiliate me in front of everyone. You don't get to blame Mom for that. Everyone was watching, now the cousins with wide eyes, the uncles suddenly quiet, the little kids confused but sensing something was off. Aunt Lisa even put down her glass of wine like she was ready to step in. Andrew just laughed. Why are you really milking this victim act? Seriously, lighten up. That's when Daniel jumped in again. She asked you to stop. Mom asked you to stop. Everyone here can see you're being an asterisk. Why are you doing this? Andrew's grin slipped just a little. Because it's funny. But nobody laughed this time. Even Uncle Mike, who usually loves Andrew's antics, shook his head. Not this kind of funny, kid. I could feel my hands trembling, but it wasn't fear anymore, it was pure anger. You don't get to mess with my life just because you're bored, Andrew. You broke my trust, and honestly, I don't even want to be around you anymore. I didn't plan to say that out loud, but once it came out, there was no taking it back. For the first time all night, Andrew actually looked uncomfortable. He glanced around, probably realizing he'd lost the audience. A smirk faltered, and he muttered, whatever, before shoving another marshmallow on his stick like none of it mattered. But it did matter. The energy had shifted. Everyone saw him for what he was, a boundary crossing jerk who'd gone way too far. I sat back down, heart pounding, knowing this wasn't over yet. Something in me had snapped, and now it was time for consequences. After that blow up by the fire pit, nobody really knew what to do. The reunion vibe had gone from cheerful to awkward in minutes. People were whispering, shifting in their chairs, suddenly way too focused on their s'mores. I was sitting stiffly, every muscle in my body tight. My mom leaned over and whispered, you don't have to sit through this, we can go. But something inside me refused to let him get away with it. I shook my head. No, I'm not running. That's when Aunt Lisa, who never misses a chance to referee family drama, cleared her throat and said, all right, this needs to stop. Andrew, you owe your sister an apology. He rolled his eyes. She's not my sister. That stung. Hard. I know we're her step-siblings, not blood, but we've been in the same family long enough for that to mean something. Him throwing that line out so casually felt like another slap in the face. I shot back without thinking. Yeah, clearly you don't see me as family, or else you wouldn't humiliate me for fun. Everyone froze. The words hung in the smoky night air. My stepdad, who had been quiet up until then, finally spoke. His voice was low but sharp. Andrew, you crossed the line tonight. Andrew looked shocked, like he wasn't expecting his dad to take my side. What, Dad? I was just messing around. Messing around is one thing, betraying someone's trust is another, my stepdad said for me. You embarrassed her, you disrespected your mom, and you made the whole family uncomfortable. That's not what this reunion is about. Andrew looked around, maybe hoping for backup, but nobody said a word. Even Uncle Mike, his usual cheerleader, wouldn't meet his eyes. I could feel my chest pounding, but I pushed myself to say it. You listened in on something that wasn't yours to hear. You took my pain and turned it into a punchline, and then you laughed when I told you to stop. Do you realize how messed up that is? For the first time all night, Andrew didn't have a snappy comeback. He just sat there, staring at the fire, jaw clenched. Silent stretch, broken only by the crackling wood. Then Jenna spoke up softly. Honestly, Andrew, it wasn't funny. It was mean. That felt like the nail in the coffin. Jenna never says anything against him, but now even she wasn't defending him. Finally, Andrew muttered, fine, sorry. But it was flat, hollow. Not real. I crossed my arms. That's not an apology. That's just you trying to move on without owning what you did. He snapped back. What do you want from me, huh? A public speech? Yes, I said, surprising even myself. Because you humiliated me in public, so if you're actually sorry, say it to everyone you embarrassed me in front of. The firelight flickered across his face as he glared at me. The whole family held their breath, waiting to see what he'd do. Andrew's glare could have burned a hole straight through me. His marshmallow stick snapped in half in his hands, and for a second I thought he was going to explode. Instead, he stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. Fine, you all want a show? Here it is. He turned in a slow circle, addressing everyone around the fire like he was on stage. I'm sorry I told everyone about her breakup. I'm sorry she can't take a joke. I'm sorry the whole family reunion had to turn into drama hour because she decided to be sensitive. He bowed theatrically. Some cousins chuckled nervously, but most people stayed quiet. The apology was a performance mocking, not sincere. I felt my throat tighten. Before I could respond, my stepdad's voice cut through the silence. Andrew, sit down. But Andrew didn't sit. He kept going. No, you know what? I'm sick of this. Every time I open my mouth, it's a problem, but she gets to act like some perfect angel, and I'm the bad guy, screw that. My heart was hammering in my chest. I stood up too, facing him across the fire pit. You're the bad guy because you chose to be. You crossed my boundaries. You embarrassed me, and instead of owning up, you're doubling down. That's not on me, that's on you. The family sat frozen watching like it was some high-stakes tennis match. My mom looked like she wanted to jump in, but she held back. I think she knew I needed to finish this myself. Andrew's face twisted, like he wanted to spit back something cruel. But then Daniel, bless him, spoke up again. Man, listen to yourself. You're making it worse. You say she's sensitive, but you're the one throwing a tantrum because nobody laughed at your jokes. That hit him. You could see it in the way his posture faltered, just for a moment. But instead of backing down gracefully, he snapped. You know what? Forget it. I don't need this. I don't need any of you. And with that, he stormed off toward the house, slamming the screen door behind him so hard it rattled. The silence that followed was almost painful. You could hear the crickets again, the hiss of the fire, even the kids whispering, what just happened? I sank back into my chair, adrenaline draining out of me. My mom put a hand on my shoulder and whispered, you did good. But it didn't feel good. My chest was still tight, my stomach in knots. I'd stood up for myself, yes, but the trust between me and Andrew was gone burnt to ash in front of everyone. The rest of the family tried to carry on, but the easy laughter never really came back that night. It was like a shadow hung over the reunion, and I knew nothing would be the same between me and him after that. After Andrew stormed into the house, the fire pit crowd slowly started to stir again. Conversations picked up in hesitant fragments, like people weren't sure if it was safe to relax. The kids went back to chasing each other, but the adults, nobody was laughing the same way anymore. I sat there staring at the flames and marshmallows still raw on my stick. My appetite was gone. Jenna leaned closer. You okay? I forced a smile. Yeah, just done. But I wasn't okay. I felt run out, like someone had taken my insides and twisted them. After a while, I slipped away into the house. The kitchen was empty, except for the faint hum of the fridge. I poured myself some water, hoping to calm down. That's when I heard voices down the hall, low, tense. It was my stepdad and Andrew. You embarrassed your sister in front of everyone, my stepdad said, his voice firm but quiet. That wasn't funny, Andrew, it was cruel. Andrew's reply came sharp. She's not my sister. You married her mom. That doesn't make her family. My stomach dropped. Stepdad didn't raise his voice, but the disappointment in it cut like glass. Family isn't just blood. It's how you treat people, and tonight, you treated her like an enemy. There was a pause. Then Andrew muttered, whatever, you always take her side anyway. I couldn't listen anymore. I tiptoed back toward the living room, but my chest felt like it was caving in. So that's how he really saw me. Not as family. Not even as someone deserving of respect. Just an outsider in his world. A few minutes later, Mom found me curled up on the couch, hugging a throw pillow. She sat beside me, brushing my hair back like she used to when I was a kid. You were brave tonight, she whispered. I know it didn't feel like it, but you stood your ground. Tears stung my eyes. He doesn't even see me as his sister. He literally said it. Her expression softened, but there was sadness in it too. That's his immaturity talking. He wants to hurt because he's embarrassed, but that doesn't erase who you are to us, to your family. He doesn't get to define that. I nodded, but the ache stayed. Later, Daniel came in too, sitting on the arm of the couch. For what it's worth, he said, I think most of us are on your side. He looked like a complete jerk tonight. I laughed weakly. Yeah, thanks for backing me up twice. Daniel shrugged. Someone had to. He bullies people because he thinks no one will call him out. Tonight, you proved him wrong. I smiled for the first time that night, but it was small tired. Because deep down, I knew things with Andrew weren't just awkward now. Something fundamental had snapped. And once trust is broken, how do you get it back? The next morning, the reunion house felt like a battlefield after the war. Half-empty soda cans, paper plates stacked on the counter, chairs scattered around the yard. The smell of last night's bonfire still clung to my clothes. I came downstairs to find a few relatives already packing up. Aunt Lisa was clattering pans in the kitchen, and my uncle was hauling cool as his truck. The usual post-reunion bustle, but the mood was different. Quieter. Heavier. Andrew was at the table, scrolling on his phone like nothing had happened. No eye contact, no acknowledgement. Just pretending I didn't exist. I grabbed a cup of coffee and sat at the far end of the table. The silence between us was suffocating. Finally, Mom came in, tension practically radiating off her. She glanced at Andrew and said, You should say something to her. He didn't even look up. I already did. My stepdad sighed. That wasn't an apology, Andrew, that was sarcasm. Andrew shoved his phone in his pocket and stood abruptly. Why is this such a big deal? She's fine. Everyone needs to stop making me the villain. I set my cup down and met his eyes. My voice was steady, but my hands were clenched under the table. You are the villain when you choose to be. You listened to something private, you used it against me, and you laughed at my pain. That's not teasing, that's betrayal. His jaw tightened. For a second, I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd actually break and admit it. But then he scoffed. You're so dramatic. That was it. I stood. I don't care if you never apologize, but from now on, I don't trust you, and I'm done pretending we're close. If you don't see me as family, then fine, but don't expect me to treat you like a brother either. The room went dead silent. Even Aunt Lisa stopped clattering dishes. Andrew didn't say a word. He just grabbed his jacket and walked out the back door, letting it slam behind him. I sat back down, trembling, but weirdly calm. Like a weight had lifted. Mom put a hand on mine. He drew a line. That's important. Stepdad nodded slowly, looking torn. He'll have to live with the consequences of how he acted. The rest of the reunion wrapped up with polite small talk, but the damage lingered. People avoided mentioning what happened, but I caught whispers, sympathetic glances. Andrew didn't come back outside the rest of the day. Since then, things between us have been cold. We don't talk much, and when we do, it's short and stiff. Part of me hates that it's come to this, but another part of me knows it was inevitable. Trust, once broken like that, doesn't just snap back. And maybe that's the hardest part. It wasn't just about a breakup or some dumb jokes. It was about realizing that someone who was supposed to be family was willing to betray me just to get a laugh. I'll never see him the same way again.